It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Sproles, answer, yes! Caught! Touchdown, did he get it?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming online, 1069thefan.com, and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. Lots of different ways to listen, to tune in, to participate. You can also listen to past episodes on our Full Court Press podcast feed, and past interviews, post-practice audio, lots of stuff available for you there. But as always, if you want to chime in real time with what's going on, you can text us via the Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321 to chime in. A couple different things to discuss today. There was a hopeful target for Coach Sprinkle, and it was a hope. I don't know how much it was going to be like. How much you should get emotionally invested in that opportunity. But we now know that one of his former great players at Montana State has a new home, but it is not in Logan. And we'll update you on that. NBA playoffs continue. And, you know, I was thinking last night, we were really kind of foolhardy to just cast off the games that were going to take place last night, all of them elimination games, all of them going into those games, the home teams were favored by double digits, and we thought it could be kind of a snoozer of a night in the NBA, and boy, were we wrong. And this first round of the NBA playoffs, they've, outside of a game here or two, they've been fantastic. They've been close. They've been competitive. The NBA has really needed a playoff series like they've had so far over the last week and a half. So it's been really fun to watch and see it unfold. A couple of games series are done now, but continue to look at games and series that are still taking place and updating you on the current situation with who's available and who isn't, because that seems to be an ever-revolving door, especially among stars in these playoffs.
Yeah, it's really frustrating just how many of these series seem to be impacted by the availability of star players. I mean, the Clippers, they lost their series. Heck, they were fighting pretty hard against the Suns team that's supposed to be stacked with stars.
Yeah.
I mean, they are.
Give them credit. They didn't go down without a fight.
If they'd had Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, because the only time you got to see those two is every time Norman Powell made a bucket, they'd pan over to Paul George, or at least I think it was mostly Paul George I saw last night. I don't know if Kawhi was actually on the bench. Or if he was, they were mostly going to Paul George. He's celebrating, but he's in street clothes.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't want that. Like, I enjoy watching Norman Powell as much as the next person, but I want to see Kawhi Leonard and Paul George duking out against KD and Devin Booker and Chris Paul. You know, that's it is kind of frustrating, that, especially for Clippers fans. I saw somebody mention, I think we're on year 4 of Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Is that correct?
Is it that many years?
That's what I thought. I was like, have we really been going? We've been teased by Paul George and Kawhi Leonard being a dynamic duo to potentially go deep into the playoffs for like 4 years, and we've gotten diddly jack out of it.
I don't think it's been that long. I think it's been 3. I think it was the 21 series, because the Jazz faced them in the second round in 21. That was when Donovan hurt his ankle. That really changed the course of that series for Utah. But I think that was the first year that Kawhi and
so Kawhi's
Paul
been
George
with the Lakers for 4 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He didn't play one of those years. And I'm looking at so it was 2019-20. The first year Kawhi was there and Paul George was there. So,
Yeah, they joined at the same time, so you're right.
Yeah, I saw somebody say that. I was like, has it really been 4 years? Because it's just been every year. Oh, the Clippers, they got Kawhi and Paul, and it's like, do they, though? Do they? Feels like the Jazz have Kawhi Leonard as much as the Clippers do.
Well, it was confirmed today, well, several different sources. It wasn't from the Clippers themselves, but Kawhi Leonard has been diagnosed with a torn meniscus in his right knee. I mean, that guy is, it's really unfortunate, but he's just so injury prone. You know, Anthony Davis gets a bad rap, but Kawhi Leonard should deserve just as much or more of how often that guy's injured. And it's just, gosh, too bad. Because when he was healthy, he was very impactful. But that's just it. He's not healthy. He's not available.
Doing the math on what percentage of games he's played the last 4 years. 49%. He's played in less than half of his team's possible games.
I would guess a lower percentage.
Yeah. So he played 57 games the first year, 52 the next year, missed the entirety of the next year, didn't have anything. And then he played 52 games this year. So 161 games over 4 seasons.
He played 51 games this year?
52.
52? Wow. That's way more than I would have guessed.
This year was actually the first time he came off the bench in 2 games. The first time he came off the bench since 2013. 10 years ago. But yeah, it's insane. Yeah, he hasn't played more than 60 games since 2016.
Oh, my word.
And he's honestly only played more than 70 games twice.
In his 52 games, he was impactful. 23.8 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3.9 assists.
Dude was 3 free throw percentage off of being a 50-40-90 guy this year. He's good.
So when he plays, he's good.
He's dang good.
He's just not available very much.
Yeah, he's just not around, and that's the frustrating thing, is that this is a guy who's one of the best players in the league. He is a go-to, top of the line, all NBA, lead your team to a championship kind of player. He's led 2 teams to championships. He'd kind of taken over that spot with the Spurs, taken over that for Tim Duncan. Probably wasn't quite to his peak of Kawhi Leonard when he won that championship with the Spurs, but he was certainly on his way and was probably the best player on the team in that run. Because Duncan was, on his way out as far as getting old and getting close to retirement. Then obviously he did it with the Raptors. That might have been one of his best years as a whole, just in his whole career. And he leads the Raptors to a championship. But, yeah, he's just not been the same since. Or
just not available.
Yeah, I guess I should. He's not been available. He's kind of been the same since. He's been the same level of player. He's just not been on the floor enough. Now, at least, especially in the playoffs. Because, he only played 60 games in the regular season with Toronto, but he was there for the whole playoff run. Every other year after that, just not around, or he misses 2 games in a series, and the team, loses maybe because of it. And so, Kawhi Leonard, he's kind of the poster boy because he's always missing, but as you kind of mentioned at the beginning there, it feels like it's everyone. Ja Morant and Giannis and Anthony Davis. Has Anthony Davis actually missed a game in the series?
Yeah, he's actually been pretty available during the playoffs so far.
But it's just so many guys constantly missing a game here or there. They're not always going out for the rest of the year like Kawhi Leonard just has. But your star player misses a game, it could hurt you. Granted, weirdly enough, it seems to not have. Because I think the Grizzlies won the game where Ja was out. The Warriors won the game that Draymond was out. Didn't the Bucks win the game that Giannis was out? Or did they lose that one?
I think they lost.
I think there was one other team that lost when one of their star players was out. But it is kind of weird That's kind of what's been happening. But, it does feel, it almost feels like it puts a stain. We end up kind of moving past it. I know some people will talk about asterisks and things like that. But even with all of our complaining, I think your initial point was right. These playoffs have been good so far. And I usually enjoy the first round of the playoffs. It's probably my favorite round, aside from maybe the finals. Sometimes I like it even more than the finals. Just because there's a volume of basketball, there's a lot of good players, there's basketball every night, multiple games every night for the most part. In the finals, you got to wait 1 or 2 days, and sometimes one of the games is just a blowout, so it's not any good. One team goes up 1-0, the other team blows the other team out, so it's 1-1. You got to wait 2 or 3 more days for an interesting game. But yeah, it's overall I've been enjoying the NBA playoffs, and I've also been enjoying the NHL. Been watching NHL games.
Wow, you've been watching some hockey.
Yeah.
You got to get yourself ready for when the Coyotes relocate to Utah.
I only watch the NHL playoffs. I don't really ever watch regular season NHL, but I love me some Stanley Cup playoffs.
What's interesting in the NBA, these games have been fun, but we already have 3 series that are done. You saw Philadelphia sweep Brooklyn. Nuggets took care of the Timberwolves last night. Suns took care of the Clippers.
We only had 1 sweep, though.
That's true.
Which I think makes for a good first round. Like, if you have 1 sweep, you have 2 gentlemen sweeps here. But most of these series are going 6 games. Not bad.
No. Trae Young with that deep 3 late, which may have been a bit of a risky gamble to take a shot like that.
Trae Young, what else? He doesn't have anything else in his bag.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the one thing he can do. And he can there's an argument as to whether or not he's actually good at it. Because I don't think his 3-point percentages are that good.
So they stave off elimination last night in dramatic fashion. Tonight you got a couple more games on the schedule.
Yeah, I think
which you've got some more elimination games.
The games today, I think if I remember what games are supposed to happen today, let me double check, see if my memory's right. Yeah, these are going to be some good ones. I know 3 of these are teams that are down 3-1. Knicks, Cavs, Lakers, Grizzlies, Heat, Bucks. Those are all 3-1 series, but these are the series that we've all been, at least maybe not so much Knicks, Cavs, but, Lakers, Grizzlies has been a lot of attention. Heat, Bucks, a 1-8 matchup. Jimmy going off for 56, and then Warriors, Kings has probably been the best series in the playoffs so far.
Oh, yeah.
So you get those games all tonight. Of course, they put the Heat Bucks on NBA TV.
Yeah, you got a doubleheader on NBA TV and then a doubleheader on TNT. So on NBA TV tonight, it's the Knicks at the Cavaliers. New York holds a 3-1 series lead there, but Cleveland is favored tonight by 5.5. And then, so that's at 5. At 5:30 on TNT, it's the Lakers at the Grizzlies. Memphis is down in this series, but Memphis is favored by 5. It's on their home court, trying to get back on track. Then at 7:30 on NBA TV, that's the second of the doubleheader there, Miami at Milwaukee. Milwaukee trying to stave off elimination on their home court. They're favored by 12. That's surprising a little bit to me.
I think it's just they assume that, it's a 1-8 matchup, so obviously the one team is supposed to be better. They're staving off elimination. They're just assuming that the Bucks, even if they lose this series, sending it to 6 games, it's not uncommon at all for a team that goes down 3-1 to win Game 5 and make it 3-2.
Yeah.
Like we saw it with the Hawks. They'll push it all and they'll go all in. They'll win that Game 5, force a Game 6, but they pretty much never win, both Game 6 and Game 7 like they have to. So I would bet the Bucks are probably they could very easily just blow out the Heat, blow them completely out of the water. That doesn't necessarily mean the series is going to turn around, though.
No. And then the late game tonight, 8 o'clock on TNT, the Warriors at the Kings. Certainly the big question here is De'Aaron Fox. His finger on his shooting hand, what's his pain tolerance? Can he go tonight? Big-time player, clutch player for Sacramento. Golden State is favored by 2 and this one on the road. When a series is tied 2-2, whomever wins that game 5 has a huge advantage. Statistically, it's a massive advantage when you look at the overall series and how those series gets decided.
Yeah, I can't remember what the percentage is, but you'll hear it tonight.
I'm sure
somebody will say it.
It'll be talked about ad nauseum for a while.
Yeah, it'll show up there at some point on that nightcap on TNT. So certainly some good games. That Warriors-Kings one, probably the one I have the biggest eyes on. Though I think I might, tune a little bit into the Knicks Cavs. That's a series that I've kind of ignored. Oddly enough, considering Donovan Mitchell's involved, I haven't paid nearly as much attention to this series. Might pay a little more attention tonight, especially because we're on Elimination, and because the Knicks are, tapping it all over the Cavs when the Cavs were supposed to be a little bit better.
Yeah, that's that one. So it's interesting that you've got in these elimination games, it's all the road teams who are favored, or excuse me, who have the advantage, the 3-1 advantage in the series. But the home teams are the ones who are favored in these, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a playoff game. It's on your home court. You had the better overall record for the season. You should be favored, but it's the playoffs, and anything can happen.
That's the thing. Like the Cavs-Knicks, that's a 4-5 matchup. That's why 5.5 points. But Lakers-Grizzlies, that's what, the 2-7 matchup. The Heat-Bucks, that's the 1-8, and isn't Kings-Warriors the 3-6?
Yeah.
So there's supposed to be a gap between, of course, the Warriors-Kings, that's a 2-2 series. So they're kind of tied up, but it makes sense that the Bucks should be favored by a lot because they're supposed to be. They have the best record in the East, or I think maybe in the league. Do they have the best record in the league?
Milwaukee?
Or was it the Nuggets that had the best record?
No, I think Milwaukee has the best record.
They?
They're the number 1 overall seed.
Yeah, that'd be embarrassing if they go out.
Oh,
has that even happened? Has an 8 seed beat a 1 seed? Has it actually happened? I thought it might have happened
I'm
once.
Sure it has. I'm trying to think of when. But a team that was in the play-in tournament, they had to fight to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then they take down the number 1 overall team in the NBA.
Yeah, and I don't think a play-in team has won a series since they instituted the play. Granted, 7 and 8 seeds winning a series has already been incredibly rare enough.
Right.
I think,
especially since it's moved to best of 7 in the first round.
Yeah. I think, didn't the Pelicans with Anthony Davis do it, or were they a 6 seed? And they beat the Trailblazers. I can't remember if they were a 7 seed or a 6 seed.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and try and remember that, but yeah, it is interesting how, and maybe this is I used to think I was kind of going against the notion that people were picking these, media darling teams, the Lakers and, at one point the Nets when they had KD and all the rest, and the Warriors when they'd pick them when they were lower seeds just because they were media darling teams. I was like, well, okay, if you're the 1 seed or the 2 seed, that means something. It means you're a good team, but this seems to be proving my notion wrong where the regular season does matter and that you can't just get a low seed and then flip a switch in the playoffs. Right now I'm wrong. The Lakers have done that.
Well, these are teams, both Miami and LA were both teams who really were kind of had to be in a playoff mode weeks ago just to try to secure an opportunity to make the playoffs. So they've already been in this mode for a while, whereas Milwaukee and the Grizzlies, Denver to some degree, they're resting guys. We've got our position. It's in the bag. Let's rest, make sure we're ready for the playoffs. And they start to get out of that urgency and that flow and that rhythm of basketball and prep and competition. And so that is kind of a risk, and we've always kind of been aware of it. We've seen it in the NCAA tournament in the first 4. Sometimes those games can help propel a team, pick up a few extra games. But we really haven't seen it in the NBA where it has resulted in an upset in a first round. They may create an interesting series, but ultimately those higher seeds figure it out, kick it into gear, and they take care of business because they're a better team. But this year, we might see multiple fall in the first round, whether the higher seeded team gets dropped.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see just how far a team like the Lakers, because, like, is it the Lakers being good? Because right now they look good. LeBron James playing great. Anthony Davis, he's healthy. They're playing good.
Their role players are showing up.
Yeah, the role players has done really well. They seem to fit a little bit better. Are they good, or are the Grizzlies kind of frauds? Because who would the Lakers play in the second round? They're the 7th seed. They'd face the 3, so they face the winner of Warriors-Kings, right?
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting series. I have to watch that one. That would be.
Yes.
That would certainly be interesting.
It's an all-California series.
Yeah, almost a shame that it's the second-round matchup, not the Western Conference Finals. But I'm pulling for the Nuggets to get to the finals, partly because of new blood, partly because I'm kind of a Jokic fan. I just want to see him not constantly get crapped on for a supposed lack of playoff success.
Well, I think Jamal Murray healthy and back into playoff form, I think that's proving to be a pretty big deal for them. The question is, can Coach Michael Malone not mess it up?
He's got Jokic on his team. You'd think he wouldn't mess it up.
Yeah, because he has a bit of a history of doing that. 435-339-0321. A couple more elimination games tonight. Do you see any of these games, or see any of these series ending tonight, or are we going to get more basketball out of this first round for these games, these teams that are involved in the NBA playoffs? 435-339-0321 here on the Full Court Press.
As a small business, achieving your financial goals and ambitions can be a steep and rocky mountain climb. This is Lance Zollinger, president at Cache Valley Bank. To conquer the mountain and achieve your goals, it takes planning, hard work, and discipline. At Cache Valley Bank, we have the resources, expertise, and flexibility to help you scale your way to success. Give us a call. Let's work together and climb the mountains that await. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
When it comes to your eyeglasses, a discount shop may not be your best answer. Do you really want to look like everyone else? Crystal Vision, a Best of Northern Utah 2-time gold medalist, curates brands that are made in smaller batches, not mass-produced. Crystal Vision's glasses are made from the highest quality materials and components and feature interesting styles and color combinations, rather than buying mass, cheap-produced frames overseas. Your glasses will feel like they were made for you. Crystal Vision, online at crystalvision.com.
Slough in the Rough. This golf tournament is scheduled for May 12th at the Logan River Golf Course. Registration will begin at 8 with a 9 a.m. shotgun and then lunch, awards, and prizes immediately following play. Get your team signed up for a good time and a great cause. Slough in the Rough will benefit students and teachers with scholarships and grants within the Logan School District. Call 755-2300 to sign up. Cost for a foursome is $800. Call 755-2300 and tell them you want to play Friday, May 12th in Slough in the Rough.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Is there a doctor here?
Listen. There is no more accomplished woman playing career to coaching career than Dawn Staley. This is what she said after they lost.
We're not thugs. We're not monkeys. Watch what you say.
Everybody is not racist. There is no racial background in people's discussion over her team. Shame on you.
The Doug Gottlieb Show.
Weekday afternoons from 1 to 3 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
This is Nate Lamson with Valley Office Systems, your home team when local matters. Valley Office Systems is your local provider for all things office, copiers, printers, furniture, and document management. Proudly serving Cache Valley since 2007. Visit valleyofficesystems.com.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. So, yeah, a couple of elimination games tonight in the NBA. Starting at 5 o'clock on NBA TV, Knicks at the Cavaliers. Knicks hold the 3-1 series lead. Lakers at Grizzlies, 5:30 on TNT. Lakers lead that series 3-1. At 7:30 on NBA TV, Heat at Bucks. Miami leads that series 3-1. Milwaukee favored by 12 in that one, 7:30 on NBA TV. And then the nightcap, 8 o'clock on TNT. Warriors, Kings, all tied up at 2 apiece. And series returns to Sacramento. It's going to be a lot of cowbell. It's going to be a very loud arena. And Golden State's favored by 2 currently. Last night, there's pretty exciting games. You had one, basically a game-winning shot for Atlanta, which continued their series as it will shift back to Atlanta thanks to Trae Young. Timberwolves had an opportunity to do the same. Anthony Edwards put up a 3-point shot at the end of regulation to tie the game, send it into overtime in Denver, but the shot did not go in, and he immediately ran off the floor, ran into the tunnel, and didn't spend time congratulating Denver for a good series, talked to his own teammates, whatever. He just ran off the court through the tunnel. He was upset, but apparently on his way out, he picked up and swung a chair and hit a couple of Denver Nuggets employees. And now they're filing charges. And it would be a third-degree assault. A third-degree assault charge for hitting 2 female Nugget employees with a folding chair.
Congratulations.
Minnesota's got some issues, man.
One guy punched a wall. Anytime you ever see a video of a guy punching a wall on his way out the stadium, just set the timer on how long until the injury report comes out that he broke his hand.
Then you had teammates punching each other in a timeout.
Yeah.
Now you've got another guy throwing a chair and hitting some employees on his way out of the tunnel.
Jazz have these guys as picks for like the next 7 years.
Yes, that's right. Thank you.
Just saying.
Thank you, Minnesota. Thank you, Anthony Edwards.
So it's just we're over here. It's like that meme looking through the blinds where you're just like smiling. It's like yes,
watch it burn.
Coming off the text line, if you guys want to text in 435-339-0321, 1344, who at least looking at the history, I don't know if he's texted in before. So thanks for texting in. He says, you guys talk a lot about stats that impress you. LeBron's 2020 is great, but a 5x5 is much more impressive and rarely happens. Andre Kirilenko had one, or who do you think who will be the next NBA player to get one? I think Jokic might be.
Yeah, 5x5 is very impressive. I remember that day when it happened. I was listening to Hot Rod Hundley call the game. I wasn't watching the game. I was listening, and Hot Rod starts freaking out and going crazy. And as Andre Kirilenko, AK-47, as he's approaching this number, and I had never heard of it before, and Hot Rod's going bonkers. I'm like, what is going on? So I start paying closer attention, and he starts to describe it. So it's 5 or more in 5 positive statistical categories.
Yeah, it's like the 5 main statistical categories. It's points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. Get 5 of each in all of those, which is hard.
Really hard.
Looking at just like NBA history, there have been 21 5x5s.
Wow, that's more than I would have guessed.
Yeah, and funnily enough, Andre Kirilenko has 2 of them.
Really? He did it twice?
Twice within a week.
Wow.
He did it on December 3rd, 2003, and then again on December 10th. So he's one of only a handful of players to do it multiple times. I think him and Hakeem Olajuwon are the only ones who have done it multiple times. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. Yeah, Hakeem did it like 5 times, 5 or 6 times. He was absurd.
Wow.
But yeah, in the most recent one was, let's see, do you think you can guess who was the most recent one to do it?
Most recent player to get a 5x5?
Yeah, it was in 2019.
Was it Giannis?
No, that's not a bad guess, though. He doesn't have one. You'd probably never guess this one.
Bam Adebayo.
No, that's not a bad guess either. You're not going to get
Jimmy Butler.
Yusuf Nurkic.
What?
Yeah, he did it. I wouldn't have thought him either.
Up in Portland?
He did it in an overtime game. It is kind of weird. But to give you an idea of some of the kind of players who have done it, so Yusuf Nurkic did it in 2019. Anthony Davis, who's probably the player I'd nominate to be most likely to get the next one, or among them. Draymond Green, he's another player. He's actually the kind of guy,
Yeah.
Nicholas Batum.
Really?
Yeah. All the way back in 2012, Andrei Kirilenko, Marcus Camby. Wait, Andrei Kirilenko has 3 of them. Because he did it twice in 2003 and then one more time in 2006. So he's actually got 3 of them.
Oh, my word.
So you see this list and you kind of get the idea of the kind of player. They're usually not centers. I wouldn't think Jokic is as likely. Mostly on the blocks. Because that's the funny thing is the blocks and steals are the trickiest part of a 5x5.
Yep.
A lot of players can easily rack up 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 steals. And sometimes they'll
assists.
get 5 assists. They'll sometimes get maybe 4 steals and like 3 blocks. Walker Kessler, if he ever has like 5 steals in a game, he'll be on a 5x5 watch, but he probably wouldn't get like the 5 blocks or 5 assists, one or the other. It just kind of takes a special, versatile player. Jokic could certainly get there if he has a game where he has 5 steals, but is he going to get 5 blocks as well? Like, those are pretty rare games. Like, getting 5 steals or 5 blocks is a pretty rare enough game. To do it at the same time is, and you also have to be the kind of player who's likely to end up with 5 points or 5 rebounds and 5 assists. Like, it's just this insane combination. It's why they're so rare. It just takes a special player. Hakeem Olajuwon, Andrei Kirilenko, Anthony Davis, Draymond Green, just these kind of players that just do a little bit of everything, and on one night
versatile.
it all comes together.
Yeah, so the last one in the NBA was 2019.
Yeah, New Year's Day, 2019. I kind of remember him getting it, and I was like, Yusuf Nurkic? He also had a 2020 game that day. He had 24 points, 23 rebounds.
Wow. He was on one.
Yeah, he's just randomly. Kind of tells you Yusuf Nurkic was one time like a up-and-coming player.
Absolutely.
But really got derailed by injuries.
Yeah, that's very true. Wow, really interesting. Now, thanks, 1344. Yeah, that's a big statistical accomplishment to achieve in the NBA.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people don't know. And I meant one time there was a Utah State women's player who kind of came within spitting distance of one. I think she had like 4 blocks and 3 steals, or maybe 4 blocks and 4 steals, like to go with like rebounds and assists and points. And I was interviewing her after, and she was like, "I don't know what a 5x5 is." I was like, "Oh, well, you almost had one. It's pretty cool. Let me tell you all about it."
Yeah. You almost did something really, really spectacular.
Yeah. It's like Megan Mendozona, I think was her name. I may have butchered her last name. Yeah, she eventually transferred away because,
of course,
they always do that.
It's because, of course,
she'd have played out her whole career. She'd actually still be with the Aggies, but because she's somewhere else now, finishing up her career. But yeah, there's tangent of a 5x5. You set me off 1344.
Speaking of basketball, speaking of Aggie basketball, there was a slimmer of hope that Utah State might get a really, really talented basketball player when Danny Sprinkle left Montana State to come to USU, hoping that a very talented player on that roster might follow him to Logan. Well, it turns out, as of today, that's not going to happen. Montana State transfer RaeQuan Battle is reportedly going to West Virginia. And when we started to see the line of suitors grow for RaeQuan Battle's services, it seemed less and less likely that he would follow Sprinkle to Logan.
Yeah, especially when we were hearing that he was getting offered 6-figure dollar amounts to go play for other schools. It was just, I mean, when I was first hearing about Danny Sprinkle potentially becoming coach of Utah State, one of the first things I did was look at Montana State's roster, see who maybe could follow, and RaeQuan Battle's the first guy. I was like, him. I want him.
Yes, can we do it for him?
Yeah, it's like, we get Danny Sprinkle, but we also get RaeQuan Battle, right? Well, the answer is no. And it's still disappointing. But to remain optimistic, there are still a lot of good guys in the portal. And there are guys that Utah State are recruiting and that they have a good chance of landing. There are a couple different names I've heard that they're recruiting and have a good chance of landing, and if they do, they're good players. Scorers. There's one guy they're recruiting who is a scorer. Good scorer. Was a freshman last year. And is a pretty dang good scorer. If they're able to land him or somebody else. I mean, I saw somebody enter the portal today. I don't have any clue if Utah State's going to go after him. But, entering the portal today, a guy who at one point was scoring 20 points per game. He went to Ohio State, got lost in their roster, and is entering the portal again because he wasn't the lead guy, It's funny because it's a story of, low mid-major guy goes to a Power 5 program, 20-point per game scorer, gets lost in a roster filled with NBA prospects. Because Ohio State, they had Bryce Sensabaugh this year. They had 2 freshmen who were top 50 recruits, and it pushes the mid-major transfer out of the roster.
Yeah.
So it's there's a bit of a tale there. I'm not pointing it at RaeQuan Battle. I know we just finished talking about him. I'm not giving him he actually might do pretty well at West Virginia. Because it's kind of like why I say Creighton was a good landing spot for Stephen Ashworth. He's a lot less likely to get lost in the roster. But anyway, the main point of this whole thing was not to throw shade at people transferring to Power 6 schools. It was mainly that there are still people entering the portal and still chances for Utah State to land good guys.
Yeah. Wyoming has, by and large, filled their roster now. They had 9 scholarships to fill. And if I'm not mistaken, I think if I saw something earlier this week, I think they're pretty much done. They might have one spot left, but it's not as critical.
I think the last I saw, there was 2 or 3 open, but that was 3 or 4 days ago, so they may have filled them by now.
So I think they've got their main rotation guys. They've still got another spot to fill.
Yeah. And Utah State, it became official today. Nigel Burris, officially official. I was trying to look at the graphic to see what number he was wearing because it's not officially official because he's not on the roster, or at least he wasn't as of 8 in the morning. They didn't put him on the roster because they have the page for 2023-2024 roster, which clearly hasn't been updated because it still has everyone who's in the portal.
Oh.
They took the guys who graduated off, and that's it.
Oh.
So, yeah, so Nigel Burris, he's the one rotation guy. I guess him and Z Hamoda are your 2 rotation guys. That we can at least know of. We could say Mason Falslev probably
Isaac
jumps
Johnson
in there. But we don't know to what degree Mason Falslev would likely contribute. Because Z, he was a rotation guy last year. Nigel Burris is going to come and be a rotation guy. Does Utah State end up recruiting over Mason Falslev, bringing in guys? Remains to be seen. I don't know. Utah State's going after a lot of different guards. I don't know if they're going to land them all. But I don't see Mason being a starter. I very much think that Sprinkle's going to try and have a roster where Mason is a backup. Just to give Utah State the most potential possible. Because if you're relying on Mason, I think I've said this before, if you're relying on Mason to have a great year, oh boy, you're taking quite the gamble. I love Mason Falslev as much as the next person, but I'm not relying on him to be a Mountain West starting level guard next year.
Well, but at the same time, he may not have an option.
Yeah, it's true.
Out of necessity, bodies who are here, have been here, who are ready to play, I need you to play. And I've got some others I want to try to get in here, but we'll see. It may be freshmen or JC guys who aren't quite up to the Mountain West level of competition just yet.
Yeah. We'll see. There's some good guys they're targeting. We got to see if they land them. Because every person that I've heard they're targeting is being well recruited. So it's just a matter of winning some of these recruiting battles, bringing them into Utah State, and trying to build, at the very least, a talented roster. Because if you got that, then just let Danny Sprinkle go to work, and we'll see just how good of a coach he is.
435-339-0321 if you want to weigh in. Speaking of college basketball, some news coming out of New Mexico State just in the last little bit. That program is in a shambles. We'll talk about that coming up on the Full Court Press.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand, Neat and Brilliant Diamonds, is both beautiful and affordable with quarter-carat diamonds starting at $499. We have hundreds of sparkling diamonds at our integrity price guarantee with financing available. An investment for generations to come, Monday through Saturday 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat is locally owned and operated inside the beautiful new Three Peaks Medical Plaza in North Logan. Expect the most cutting-edge techniques, qualified doctors, and friendly staff to ensure the highest quality patient care. The ENT providers have extensive training to properly treat ear, nose, and throat conditions for adults and children. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat serves all of northern Utah and southern Idaho, accepting most insurance products including SelectMed. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for appointments and details. Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, located in North Logan and Providence.
No matter what the conditions, DD Auto and Salvage can get your vehicle up and off your property. Now is the time to plan to make extra cash by calling DD Auto and Salvage and moving that old vehicle. Let them pay you for that junk vehicle. DD Auto and Salvage makes it so easy to get rid of your junker vehicles, paying you the most money possible. If you have metal, DD Auto and Salvage in Logan wants to pay you today. Call 787-1204.
That's 787-1204 today.
See store for details.
You may have heard that Schreiber Foods call their employees partners. Why? Because our partners own the business. You see, Schreiber Foods is the largest dairy company in the world to still be privately owned. And when you own something, you treat it differently. You help others. You care about your team. You don't answer to anyone outside the company or an investor that has no interest in you or the business. So if you're looking for stable employment, ready to be a part of and own something bigger, visit schreiberfoods.com/careers.
I'm Elizabeth Smart. Sexual exploitation and violence are unimaginable crimes that far too many people in our communities experience. In the U.S. alone, a person is sexually assaulted every 68 seconds. Every 9 minutes, that victim is a child. It's time these numbers change. Learn more about how you can join me in the fight against child sexual exploitation at malouffoundation.org.
The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, The Fan.
Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. 1069thefan.com, 1069 The Fan mobile app. A lot of different ways to listen and follow along and have you participate as well. Text in to our Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321. So it's been a very tumultuous season for New Mexico State. You know, former conference rivals for Utah State. There's some history between those two programs. But New Mexico State had a series of issues this year, specifically in their basketball program. Apparently something happened during a football game in the fall. And so when New Mexico State made the trip to Albuquerque in a basketball game, one of their players for the New Mags brought a gun and had a gun with him, went to some girl, lured him to some apartment or condo, and whatever had happened in the fall of the football game spilled over, and there was a lot of arguing and shouting, whatever. Kid pulls out a gun and shoots somebody. Goes back to the team hotel after hours, after you'd already supposed to have been in bed. This happened after curfew. The team gets on the bus, gets everybody on the bus, and they try to get out of town before anybody can figure out who it was. Highway Patrol chases them down, stops them on the side of the road, conducts a search of the bus, finds the weapon. It's a bad deal. And then on top of that, later, kind of unrelated, but later, more allegations of impropriety and bad behavior coming out of what's going on at New Mexico State. And a couple of people, Deuce and William Benjamin, Shakiro Odenenu, file a lawsuit against the university because of what they claimed were hazing incidents that were going on. And it's been a real big mess in Las Cruces.
Yeah, it's just hate to see programs just go through this, and you don't know if it's something systematic or they just got a bad beat as far as getting in trouble. You know, do guys do hazing because the coaches are turning the other way and they just ignore it, or is it happening behind the coach's back? You know, the whole thing with the shooting, that was just how the coaches handled it was stupid.
Yes.
They reacted very poorly in that situation, and that should reflect badly on them. I don't know if it happening. No, 'cause that ended up being ruled like self-defense, wasn't it?
Yeah, because they came after him with like a bat.
Yeah.
Because it was
dude didn't really do anything wrong.
Right, they lured him there, and they kind of surprised him and ganged up on him.
Yeah, I think worse than you could say he did, he might have broke his team's curfew or something like that.
Yeah.
But dude was defending himself. But yeah, like the hazing and just all that, it's just a mess. And it's the toxic side of sports in some cases. You know, this hazing stuff, and you really do hate to see it happen.
So New Mexico State issued a statement just 20, 30 minutes ago, basically saying, they continue to investigate, they take it very seriously, and they say this: NMSU has taken extensive measures, including, without limitation, recalling the entire basketball team from their road trip out of state, placing the entire coaching staff on administrative leave, launching an investigation, making mental health counseling available, canceling the remainder of the season, and firing the head coach.
Yeah, they very much took that seriously because, they went full bore.
And they needed to, because it's a bad culture with what's going on down there.
So the upper administration, they handled the situation pretty well. You might say it's drastic, but when things get this bad, sometimes you just got to be drastic. Even if you're at risk of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, you're trying to cut out something that's bad. And so, they had to shut it down. And so they'll likely root everything out. And it's nice that people will take these kind of things seriously now, because hazing used to be a regular thing. Everyone just shook it off. Oh, everybody does it.
Right. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah. And that's the justification people will still try and use now to do it, but ideally, we at least know better now, or at least are starting to know better. At least
we should. I mean, we had a hazing incident last fall with one of the football teams here.
Yeah, it's just dumb that this kind of stuff happens. And it's the kind of thing that ideally, if you're a coach, I know I don't want to place too much blame on coaches because sometimes it'll happen without them really being able to control it.
Yeah, despite their best efforts.
But ideally, you try and create a culture where that's not acceptable. And it can be hard with high school boys because they're still early in their development process, and you're having to build that from the ground up, and you don't have much time with them. But so by college, you really should be able to teach them to know better. But in high school, you try and build. You say these kind of things aren't acceptable, or brothers, we treat each other, kindly, respectfully. Sure, we might, get all rah and be physical and smack each other's heads with their helmets, but that's just, But it's still in the kind of, we're all treating each other like brothers. So that's where it can maybe fall on the coach a little bit. But again, there's sometimes players are going to do dumb stuff.
Yes.
And it happens behind the coach's back.
8968 texting in. Like I told you guys at the time, aren't you glad we live in Logan, Utah, and not in New Mexico?
Like I said, it
many
happened
times
here,
over.
though.
But it's happened here. There's been some incidents here. We're not blameless.
Like, there's crap that happens around here.
Yeah. Maybe not pulling guns and things like that.
Yeah, luckily it's not to the point where we're shutting things down, but don't absolve Logan of sin too quickly.
Yeah, that's right. Another quick timeout here in the Full Court Press. Love to continue to get the reactions. 435-339-0321.
It's that first kiss, that moment in time.
Engagement season is in full swing, and Jarek's Fine Jewelry has been helping hundreds of couples find the perfect ring. If you are getting engaged, you have to come browse our collections. Sometimes you may find the perfect ring in just a minute, or we can help you custom create your own design. Oh, and with Mother's Day almost here, talk to us about designing the perfect mother's ring.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special, make it Jarek's.
Mothers are simply the best, so treat her with nothing but the best this Mother's Day with a delicious brunch buffet at Elements Restaurant. Omelets to order, hot pancakes with maple syrup, slow-roasted prime rib, fresh salmon, deep-fried shrimp, and many more delicious options, including a full dessert bar. Because she's special, treat Mom to something extraordinary this Mother's Day. Elements Restaurant Mother's Day Brunch, Sunday, May 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Google Elements Restaurant to reserve online or call 750-5171.
Spring is here, which means more driving and future vacations. Make sure you don't forget your car as you move about your busy life. This is Dustin with Valvoline Instant Oil Change in Logan. More driving means more wear and tear for your vehicle. Come in to Valvoline Instant Oil Change to get it serviced. We'll have you in and out quickly, making sure your ride is ready for whatever life brings you. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, 695 North Main in Logan, across from Aggies.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
Napa Auto Parts has 5 locations between Preston and Providence, locally owned and operated. So you're going to get good service from people who care and want to make sure you get the right products for your vehicle. And if you need more services done than what they can help you out with, they can recommend many different ASE certified technicians to get your vehicle operating properly. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, a couple more texts coming through on the Full Court Press text line. 8968, I don't think we have to resort to shooting someone yet. There was a hazing incident at Skyview that did end the season some years ago. Yes, and there was a hazing incident that caused some players an opportunity to play for their team just this last fall. So hazing does still happen in this area. It shouldn't, but occasionally bad things, very inappropriate things still happen.
Yeah. Luckily, it seems to be on a bit of a small scale, and it seems in both instances it was taken pretty seriously. When you kick the kids off the team in the most recent case, Skyview, you have leadership that's taking it seriously when they find it.
Right.
Which, of course, New Mexico is doing the same. So,
5253, New Mexico State. Yes, make sure.
I don't need to be like that. Is that video of like a referee? I think he did that once where it was either New Mexico or New Mexico State. And he said the wrong team when he was like announcing a penalty or something. It was probably New Mexico State because he would have added the extra word. And everyone kind of started booing, and he gets back on the mic. I'm sorry. Like he apologized. It was kind of a wholesome moment. Just the referee be like, I'm sorry, I said the wrong team.
That's funny. Let's see, 5253 texting in. Can we discuss Chucky Keaton now, mentioning himself as a coach at Marshall? What did I miss?
So I'll be honest, because I think Chucky sent a tweet out either today or yesterday. I thought I'd already heard somewhere that he'd gotten the job at Marshall or something like that.
But some people may not realize that he's even not on the coaching staff at Utah State, period.
Yeah, he kind of left, and I know we talked about it a little bit on the show, like, I think you might have been gone.
Well, this happened right as spring was getting started, spring practices.
Yeah, and I think when we talked about it on the show, you might have been gone or somewhere around there. But I ended up asking Coach about it. I I posted his response on Twitter. We talked about it on the show. I don't know if we have the recording of that on our podcast feed. But basically, he's obviously no longer the running backs coach. There was something that happened behind the scenes that it was deemed inappropriate. And I think illegal, but it was deemed inappropriate. And Coach Anderson decided to let him go. He didn't announce it just because it was kind of a sticky situation, wanted Chucky Keaton to land on his feet.
But some of us in the media recognized that he was not on the roster, not on the coaching staff.
Yeah, so that's when we ended up asking him. I was like, he's not around anymore.
Yeah, where's Chucky?
Yeah, he's at Marshall now.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's the story there. We'll see if we can find the audio of Coach discussing him. I don't know if we have it easily discoverable, but we'll look. Stay tuned for more of that coming up next hour. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise. As we continue to prep for Thursday's draft, there's plenty of hype surrounding the top 10 selections. The Texans reportedly not set on taking a quarterback. Cardinals can use all the help they can get, and teams like Seattle and Detroit already have a roster with a proven veteran quarterback. But plenty of franchises are in position to trade back. Teams like the Titans and the Vikings, they've both been rumored to be interested in jumping inside the top 10. But before we get too excited about a potential draft day blockbuster, we need to remember how difficult pulling off a deal can be. Over the last 4 years, not one top 9 pick has been traded on draft night. Of course, every draft is going to be different. Each class has its own strengths. Coaches change. Also, general managers depart. But when you look at the recent history of the draft, pulling off a big deal for a top pick may prove to be a lot more difficult than a lot of fans are led to believe. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.